The only person who is stuck is the one that believes that they're stuck. I truly believe this. And when you are a single parent homesteading by yourself, a lot of times you feel very stuck. Now, this is a lifestyle that I have been living. I've been living the homestead lifestyle for about 8 years or so. And then, of course, I've been a mom for over 11 years, and there's a lot to both of those things. There's a lot to homesteading, and there's a lot to raising children into successful adults, and it's really difficult. And when you put those two things together, it is very challenging. And I thought I would sit here today and I would tell you a little bit about my life homesteading, and how my life has changed from when I was married to now that I'm single, and how I am now being successful doing the life that I love. There's an airplane. So, for example, right now I'm sitting in this chilly greenhouse and filming and talking with you guys while my children are occupied in the house. Now, of course, their ages are old enough where they can be left alone and I don't have to worry so much about them. So you may or may not be in a similar boat. I'm going to focus more on homesteading with children by yourself. Maybe you're like me and you had this life plan that you thought you had figured out, and then it blew up in your face. And maybe you're not. Maybe life just sort of carried along and you made choices, and either way you've ended up being a parent and single parent and homesteading with your children. Now, I thought I would share a few things with you about my life, and hopefully I can encourage you guys today in your life. So one of the main struggles that all the animals know I'm in here. They think they're gonna get treats. One of the main things that I have found that is like one of my biggest struggles is that homesteading is really difficult. And when you are presented challenges and you have a partner, you can bear the burden together. You can be a shoulder for each other to cry on when an animal dies. You can talk through different ideas and figure out solutions together. And a lot of times, as the saying goes, two heads are better than one. And when you are single, you just don't have that. And another thing is that homesteading is hard. It's hard work. It's often filled with very long days where the workload is not proportioned to the day length or how much sunlight there is or even how much energy you have. And sometimes you just have to work anyway. You have to get it done, because if you don't plant those crops and you miss the window, you're not going to harvest anything. If you have a animal that suddenly is ready for butcher, it can vary by a couple of weeks or a couple of days based on the temperatures, and you don't always get to pick that specific day. It's nice when you get to, but you don't always get to. And so sometimes days are filled, and oftentimes days are filled with extremely long work hours. And that can be very challenging, because oftentimes when there are two of you, one person can continue working, the other person can be feeding that person and taking care of some of the inside things, or taking care of the children, or managing the children. And when you're doing it by yourself, you just don't have that. You don't have that person who can say, oh, you need a break, or let me go get some water for you, or hey, I'll take the kids for a while, or whatever it might be. And then, of course, raising children is no small thing. There is a reason that God intended it to be a couple's activity. It will stretch you and challenge you in ways you had no idea were possible. And when you think that you figured it out, something like, hey mom, the guinea pig is stuck inside the dinosaur. Nothing in any parenting book will ever prepare you for a sentence like that. I'm just saying. You're probably going into this with you and most likely your children with wounded hearts. And that brings with it an emotional weight that is very unpredictable at times. Someone might get triggered or something might happen in a day where you cannot work. You need to take time to tend to the emotional needs, and that can cost you as a homesteader. And of course it can cost you in any lifestyle, but particularly as a homesteader, it's just one of those things. So those are some of the challenges that I have really noticed for my own self, but I would imagine that they are pretty common among single homesteading parents. I am also speaking from a place of I homeschool my children, and that's something that we have decided together that we want to continue doing, and right now it's working. So we're going to continue as long as it works for everybody. And there's some pros and cons. So some of those things that are a little challenging are things like it's very hard work. Like there is planting season and you are pretty much planting nonstop, sun up to sundown, and you're trying to get that garden in, and balancing that out can be very difficult sometimes. Then there's also the long days we talked about. Many times homesteading is a low income gig. It's not a surprise to most that farmers just don't generally make a lot of money. Now, online has helped with that, but it is just one of those considerations to make, that unless you have made your money outside of that and, everything in your lifestyle lines up, you may need to consider money in your equation. If you have recently come into being a single homesteading parent, then you may or may not be used to doing some things. So for me, I primarily took care of the animals, the children, the home, and the garden. My partner would take care of certain building projects or things like filling propane tanks or cleaning out the chimney. And so those are things that I have had to take on and make sure that they are taken care of. So oftentimes you can hire them out, but half the point of homesteading is that you're doing things alone. And now you don't have that person who can be there in an emergency or help you out. And so, it could be on the flip side where you're not used to cooking meals, or you're not used to having to stop working and thinking about, oh, I need to eat something. And so there can be that kind of angle to have to be considered as well. And you may have just found yourself just thrown in the deep end there, and you got to figure it out really quickly. There are also very long days on the homestead, especially when you're homesteading and homeschooling and with multiple children. So generally speaking, in homesteading, you stay home. You don't really leave a lot because you've built your life sort of in a simplistic fashion and slow, and you don't really go out a lot. You don't really travel a lot, partly because there's so many animal mouths to feed and things to be done. But I would highly encourage you to consider that when you're deciding whether or not you want to continue in homesteading, or if you want to shift that around a little bit. Personally, we have chosen to be more of a community hub here, so a lot of times people will actually come to our farm, but I am also finding that it's important for my children especially to go off the farm and to interact with people in different ways and take different types of classes and do that, because when you're doing roughly the same things day in and day out, and basically homeschooling and homesteading are sort of like that, then you've got to get a little more creative. One of the reasons that we chose homeschooling on the homestead is because the homestead is the homeschool. And that's so amazing. It might be such a crazy statement there, but it's really true. There are so many life lessons, like that are just built into homesteading, that it doesn't have to all be bookwork. So oftentimes, especially during like planting season or harvest season, you can get away with doing very little bookwork and just teach your children how to do practical skills. So they will end up being very responsible and very can-do adults one day, hopefully. Hopefully, right? And that's part of why we chose to do homeschooling on the homestead. Here's the thing. Children really need responsibilities. I am a very firm believer that children without responsibilities grow up not appreciating things. And it's very easy in this extremely materialistic world to raise children into adults, whether you intended to do this or not, where they just don't appreciate much. And they start latching on to that sort of entitled behavior. And I personally am not a fan of that. I think that children really need and they thrive with not even easy responsibilities, age-appropriate responsibilities, certainly. And they are invested in something where they've got skin in the game. So, you know, if they want to stay warm and they have to help bring in the firewood and they choose not to do that one day, well, the house will be cold. So, you know, it's an immediate consequence that they can have a part in and learn how to pitch in, how to help out, and how to do real things that actually matter and impact the family. And I'm a really big fan of that, and homesteading provides that beautifully. Most of you guys probably know all these things, right? If you're watching this video, it's because you either entered into homesteading as a single parent or even just a single person. You don't even have to have children for this to apply. Or you have been homesteading and have found yourself in this situation through some turn of events. And so I like I said in the beginning, I've been doing this for a year, officially a year, by myself. And it has been very, very challenging, to say the least. I can't say I have done it extremely well, but I can say that I am doing it. So I thought I would share a few of my tips with you guys on how I am doing it successfully. The first one is going to be a little challenging, especially for you homesteaders who are I can do this type people. And I know I struggled, so I still struggle with this now, but I really, really struggled with this in the beginning, is let people help you. Oftentimes we already have communities around us. We have neighbors, we have friends and family. And I hope and pray that you guys are in that position as well and that you're not truly alone. But really, I don't think any of us are. I think that if we reach out, sometimes it might take a tiny bit of effort on our part, but most of the time people want purpose in their life, and purpose comes from participating with other people and coming together and helping each other. And so let your friends who keep saying, is there anything I can do? Okay, tell me what I can do. Give them something to do. Get something specific. It could be as easy as, could you cook me a meal? Or could you just take the kids for a little bit? Or could you help me harvest the carrots today? Make connections with people. It will really surprise you how much people want to help and how much people really, really care for you. So let people help you. And tagging on that, and I know this is a really, really sensitive topic and it's very sensitive for me, is sometimes that means accepting help like government help. Now, I know this is really, really challenging because we're homesteaders. That's like the last thing we want. But if you are in a position, especially an unplanned position, where you ended up single and with children, and maybe with a extremely diminished or no income, you may need to apply for some of those programs. And just keep in mind that there shouldn't be any shame in that. That's what they're built for. And that it's only for a short time. The only person who is stuck is the one who believes that they are. So get the help that you need, accept the help that you need, and don't accept any of the shame surrounding it. You don't have to. Number 2 is get creative with your solutions. The beauty of having a partner is that there are 2 heads thinking and feeling and making decisions together. And when you are by yourself, you don't have that. So you're going to have to get really creative with solving problems. And some of the things that can look like and have looked like for me are change my routine. What I used to do doesn't work anymore. I have to work a lot more specific hours. And so I also need to make sure that I am taking care of myself. So, changing up my routine in order to accommodate that has been a must. Get the kids involved. There's no reason why children cannot help out. And I know most of the time homesteaders do this pretty well. We want our family time. We want to have our children incorporated in what we're doing and helping out. But sometimes, well, not sometimes, probably most of the time, I think for us, especially newly single people, is that having children underfoot can be a little more stressful. It means you get less done, but don't lose sight of why you started homesteading, why you have built this life that you love so much, because it's very important that your children have a stable and reassuring and secure bubble to kind of live in through this time. And I really believe that homesteading is one of the places that will really help them through this time. And then I already touched on it once, let people help you. I'm serious. Let people help you, you guys. It's important. And I am also making this video to myself and reminding myself of all of these things. So don't think that you're alone in this. I have been doing this for a while now, but I still struggle. Another thing that kind of ties in with letting people help you is let your friends in on what you're doing. You no longer have that person that you would share your struggles with, that you would share your excitement with, that you would celebrate the small wins with. So it's time to reach out to your friends, get them involved in what you're doing, let them participate in the harvest. If they want to hang out with you, and you should be hanging out with people, let them come over when you're working. And then, say you're harvesting all the peas and they all need to be shelled, plop a bowl of peas right in their lap and say, here you go, this is what we're doing while we're visiting today. Because then you're not sacrificing friend time, but you're also still getting work done, because now your time, not that it wasn't valuable before, is extra valuable now. It's in much more limited supply, and you still only have the same amount of hours in a day as you started with and when you had a partner. So get your friends involved. I promise you, there has never been a person who's come to my farm who has not enjoyed being here and helping out. In fact, I think that I could do this even better, as let my friends be involved. Okay, number 3, you guys, is make time for fun. I am terrible at this, okay? I am getting better at it. I am purposing to get better at it, making time for fun. I tend to get buried in my work, and the homestead list, let's be real, you guys, is never going to end. It's going to go on and on and on until past when we are dead and composted, and it's not gonna stop. There's always a to-do list on the homestead. So you can't have the mindset, like I have definitely had the mindset most of my life, of work first and play later. You have to stop working at some point and take time for fun, or you will burn yourself out. It's just a hard fact. And I assure you, I came very, very close to this line, and maybe I even crossed it a little bit. But fortunately, I have now realized not only do I need to have fun, but my children need to have fun. And, so think back over however long you were homesteading and think about your favorite moments. They probably involved laughing and smiling and playing in some fashion, whether it's on your farm or not. Try to incorporate those things. Try to make light work. Try to do it together and laugh and play again. If you're raking up leaves, jump in the pile. It's okay if you have to rake it again. Your kids will love it. It will make you smile, I promise. And you know, sometimes when life is really, really hard, we literally just have to sit there and smile. Just smile. Fake it till you make it, baby. And pretty soon, it's going to make you maybe start feeling silly, and you're just going to start smiling naturally. And the more you practice this, the better you get. I think this is something that's really, really helped me, is celebrating your accomplishments. Write them down in a journal, call a friend and say, I did this today. Find someone who is safe for you and celebrate it with them. If you have even just one friend that you can do this with, it is so important. And you might have to work hard to find that friend, but I assure you, you can find somebody. You can do this. Celebrate those rewards because you are working hard. As a homesteader, as a single parent, it's all work, and there are amazing accomplishments that you get, whether they're each day or at the end of the week or whatever it might be. Celebrate those things. Reward yourself. Go out to dinner. Make a fancy dinner at home, even better. Like, I don't know if you guys are like me or not, but I work hard for my food, so I'd rather just eat at home and enjoy all my hard work and set the table really fancy. Invite some neighbors over to dinner and have a dinner party, and it's worth celebrating your hard work. You're worth celebrating. Take time out. Make sure that you take time out. Maybe even away from your homestead. Get away from your children sometimes. Find a trusted, safe person to either come to your homestead and watch them, or leave them with a grandparent or something along those lines. And I mean, even maybe you're shared parenting, take time to not work when you don't have your children. Not all the time, but sometimes, at least here and there, because otherwise you don't stop long enough to process through your emotions, and eventually they're going to bubble up and build up in you, and you're going to have to release them. Take the time to be by yourself, or even just do something that you love. Take a bath and light some candles, or put on some beautiful music, or play an instrument if you used to do that, or paint, or go take dance lessons, or I don't know. There's so many ideas. Go for a walk in a park. Go for a walk in the mountains. You know, just go do something that you enjoy doing. It doesn't have to cost money necessarily, but it's really important to build yourself up. And that sort of leads me into thing number 4 here, and that is self-care. Now, I'm not talking about this fluffy self-care like, oh, I have to get my nails done, whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about serious self-care. You need to check in with yourself, even your children, but check in with yourself. Figure out what emotions you're feeling. Don't be afraid to sit quietly by yourself. Invite God into your heart and to reveal the things to you that you need to reflect on and heal from. This has probably been a very difficult season for you, and I'm so sorry that you're in this position for whatever reason, but God will work all things for your good. He's taking care of you. He's got you. Just trust Him. Trust Him that He's going to work it out. And I have a feeling you're going to be pretty surprised by the time you look back on this time right now. I know it's difficult, but if you take the time to really take care of yourself, eat good food, stop buying cheap products from the store. You're a homesteader. Eat good food. You work hard enough for it. Take time to cook good meals. Sit around as a family and eat those meals. Take the time in the winter months to exercise. Drink water. Make sure that you're taking care of your physical body and your emotional self and your spiritual self. That was the goat. Something that I find that is really, it's pretty much non-negotiable for me these days is I need to get up before my children do. I need to enjoy and have that time by myself. And really for me, one of the only ways that I get that is if I wake myself up very early in the morning. It's still like right now, it's dark out at that point, and I spend time in my Bible, and the house is completely quiet. The children are asleep, and that time frame can vary for everybody, really. it helps me to picture like, okay, I have a sponge and I can fill that sponge up first thing in the morning with noisy children voices, probably, arguing or harassing each other, or, running crazy around the hallways or whatever, or chaos and that kind of thing. And as the day goes on, it fills up more and more and more with those things. Or I can choose to fill my sponge up right away with God's word, what he's saying about me, remind myself of who he says I am and the promises that he has given to me, and reading like words of affirmation and things like that, and encouraging words to myself. And if I fill my sponge up with that, I am a lot less likely to be edgy and cranky, and just it is a way for me to start my day filled up and ready to give. Another thing too is be sure and make time for family time. I know that that's really hard in this season, but you can do it really simply, like sit down to all your meals together. That is part of homesteading, and I think it's one of my favorite parts of homesteading. And just do that, or make time to snuggle in the mornings, or make time to read together before bed, or tuck your children in. It doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours. It just has to be quality time where they know you don't have your phone. You're not thinking about gardening. You're not thinking about the animals you need to butcher or whatever. You're thinking about them only and spending time with them. And you can do it in any number of ways. Those are some of the ways that I choose to do it with my children. Remind yourself why you are homesteading. Why did you start doing this? For me, it is, I care very much about the quality of food and the medicine that I have available to my family. I care about trustworthy ingredients. I want to live a quiet and simple life that is slower paced than something like city life. And I care about incorporating nature into my life. And the homestead is sort of the extension of nature for me. And so remind yourself of why you're homesteading, because on your hard days, you can go to that. I would even encourage you to write it down. On your hard days, you can remind yourself of that, and it will be something that keeps you going. Redefine your abilities. We touched on this a little bit before, but your abilities as a single homesteader, being a parent, are far different than being in a partnership of some sort and homesteading with children. You have to shoulder the weight of that and all the responsibility by yourself now. And it's heavy. So don't kill yourself doing it. Take a look around and decide the things that you love doing. Decide the things that you love growing. Decide the animals that you like having. Decide what your needs are, your dietary needs, your medicinal needs, maybe for herbs and things. And frame your homestead around those needs. Do you have a way to make money on your farm and farm at the same time? Great. Put those things together so that you can do it all at one time and you don't have to divide your time up so much. One person can only do so many things. Cut yourself some slack. I know it's really hard, but I promise it will be worth it in the end. Sometimes we have to pivot and change. We have to take what we had, that beautiful 5 or 10 year homesteading plan and those dreams, and we need to just lay them aside, walk through acceptance of this is where I am now, and reimagine your life. And you might be like me where I can't see real far ahead of me, but that's probably a good thing right now, where I have to take this mostly one step and one day at a time. And, what can I do today? What energy do I have today? What are the needs of the homestead and my children today? And start there. And eventually you'll get back to the point where you can dream that 5 or 10 year homestead dream again. But that point might not be today. Cut out everything that's not a must. If you don't have to do it in this season, don't. It's okay. It's totally okay. You probably, if you were homesteading with a partner, were growing and growing a little more and taking on a few more things and adding maybe bees and maybe a cow instead of goats, or maybe expanding your garden a little bit and a little bit every season. And then you built your homestead up to a certain size. And that's something that's happened here in my life, is I got to this size, and then now I actually have to pare things down and pare things down and pare things down until it's in a place where I can manage it basically on my own, with, of course, the help of my children, and knowing that I can do it very well. And it might mean implementing systems and, like watering systems and automated things. It might mean growing less food. It might mean cutting your gardens back to a smaller, more manageable size, cutting your amount of animals down a little bit more. You may have to say no a little more often, but just think about that and cut yourself a break here. And then lastly, set your new plumb line. What you want in your life moving forward. What do you want your life to look like? What do you hope to have at the, when you look back over it? What do you hope for your homestead to provide for you? Set that plumb line and then build out around it, because that plumb line is going to help you make decisions moving forward. Does it line up with that? And if it doesn't, it's an easy no. It just sets you up for being able to make healthy boundaries. Redefine your needs as a homesteader. We already touched on this just a little bit. Your dietary and medicinal needs probably dictated what you're doing on your homestead. Well, are those the same? Maybe not anymore. What are your personal dietary and medicinal needs? What are your likes and dislikes? What do you like to grow? What do you like to eat? What do you like to cook? What do you want to put away, or what do you want to do? Redefine that and write it down. And, whatever you end up deciding is okay. It's okay in this season, and you won't always be in this place. Consider how will you meet your needs. That is the biggest thing, right? Is how much time do you have? How much energy do you have? And how are you going to meet those needs? Is that going to be something you do with a neighbor? Is that going to be something that you do by yourself? Or is that something you're going to have to just stop doing altogether? And whatever you decide to do, like I said, is okay. Give yourself love and time to heal. Whatever the cause for you being in this single life, for you and your children on your homestead, you've probably gone through something very traumatic. Give yourself time to heal. It's very important. It may or may not get easier for a while. You might be in this season for a while, and that's hard, but it's okay. You're gonna be okay. It's okay to have bad days. It's even okay to have a couple of bad weeks strung together. The important thing is that you pick yourself back up and you keep on going. Don't let go of the things that you love and hold dear just because you hurt. Don't do it. Hold on to your values. Remember why you are a homesteader and why you're choosing to raise your children on a homestead. Give yourself plenty of grace in this season. And remember, it's a season. It's going to come and it's going to go, and then you will find that you're in a new season altogether. And you might find one day that you look back and it wasn't as bad as you thought. It feels pretty crummy right now going through it, and I can definitely attest to that. But it's not forever. You may look back on this time and be quite amazed at all the things that God has done for you right now in this time, and you might be very surprised at how He works it all together and orchestrates a new plan for your life that you never even thought possible, and you probably never even considered. So I bless you in this place that you have found yourself in, that healing would come, that community would be built up around you, and that you would not feel alone. I assure you, there are more people out there who feel the way that you do than you think. You're truly not alone, but understand that I know that you are by yourself. I get that. Don't choose to suffer by yourself. Ask for help. Reach out to a friend on your worst days. And don't forget to learn and grow. And I'll see you in the next one.